Hi, I'm Raphael Heath, the Head of Geography at Royal High School, Bath, and this second tutorial video is going to show you how you can visualize the data from the Geography World Record event 2014, 19th of November, so you can see how you can sort of make more use of it. So let's go through to Google or a search engine. So I type in www.arcgis.com to get to my GIS platform that we're using for this. I do search and search for GIS World Record. As I said in my first tutorial, that the details for the map and the layers and the searching might change slightly before the event, and once you register for the event, we'll keep you up to date with information. This is just a sort of sample demo of the skills, but let's assume this is how we get into it. We find our map, which is one World Record 10 by me, Raphael Heath, so we're going to open it. Now in the first tutorial I showed how to sort of put data in, enter data in, and some of the other sort of basic features. If you click modify map, I mentioned that before, you've got a little bit more control over the map. If you're not a subscriber and haven't logged in, that's quite a good thing to do. You can see our different layers in the map. If I go to content here, you can switch the layers off we don't want, so if there's anything else cluttering the map that you don't need at the moment, you can get rid of it. And we'll just keep on this layer here, the GIS World Record Student Survey. I'm going to zoom into Bath just because I put in some sample data here. You can see a few dots here, just imaginary sample information from pretend students. So when the real event happens, obviously we'll have thousands of dots across the map, and that's when it becomes quite interesting to actually start to examine and analyse them. So we can zoom in into an area that interests us. In this case, I'm zoomed into Bath, and you'll see each dot contains some information. I haven't filled these out necessarily completely, but you can see here this is one of the students saying that on a scale of 1 to 10, how would they rate the area? They said 8, and on a scale of 1 to 10, how much crime do they think occurs? They said 3, and so on. So these different dots contain people's responses. So now we want to visualise data so that students can actually look at it and look at patterns for their school, or perhaps neighbouring areas, or perhaps anywhere in the world that's entered data that interests them to compare to their area. So what they do is they go to the layer, which is called GIS World Record, and you'll see a small arrow at the end of the name of that layer, which you can click down and gets you to a sub-menu. Various things you can do to this layer, which are all these dots, but we're going to go to this one called Change Symbols, which is about 3/4 of the way down the list. So I go to Change Symbols here, and you can see at the moment, and this is why it's just one dot, it's a single symbol, makes it nice and easy when we're inputting data. But when you click under the what symbol to use, you've got choice of unique symbols. Unique symbols is going to be useful mostly when you've got distinct intervals, like different land uses, like whether it's a shop or office or so on, you want to colour them different colours. Not generally used for numerical data, though it can be, but generally not. There's one of the questions that's a yes/no question that would be quite good for that one. Colour has different colour shading, so we'll pick that one, and we're going to select a field. All the fields are the different bits of the questionnaire that they've written in, plus a few others like field ID, which is they can ignore, and longitude, latitude. We don't really want to analyse or show, but let's pick this one. How would you rate your area you live in, 1 to 10? So I'm going to pick that one. And if I just click apply to start with, you'll see the dots have gone blue. It's not visually very pleasing, but you can see it has changed the colour slightly to the sort of default colour scheme. And we can see numbers intervals 2 to 10. It's organised it according to what it calls natural breaks in the data, but you can pick other intervals, equal intervals based on the data, standard deviation, and so on. We'll stick to natural breaks, but just be aware that you can change that to become clearer later, perhaps when we make the symbols more visual. Colour schemes. So at the moment, as you can see, it's not particularly clear. If I click under options here and change all symbols, the first option here, that's quite useful. I might say, okay, I want these to be circles. I move this to the side and just press apply. I can see the effect of what I've done. You can see already for the scale I'm looking at, that's quite good and effective. I can click the transparency of the circles, whether I see through them or not, or the size of the circles. If I make them bigger, I might say, okay, that might be good, or I might say, no, that's too much. And so I can sort of play around with that idea. And the outline colour as well. I'll leave that for the moment, or the width of the outline. So I say done when I'm happy with that. So yeah, I've got some colours of circles, which I can see more clearly. I can see that up here in this area of Bath, around this area of Cheltenham, Lansdowne, it's darker blue, which means that people rated their area higher than this area here. It's all made up data, but just as an example of what we can look at in the patterns, if a pattern sort of develops in the data. Again, I might say, well, one colour is not strongly visual enough, so I could pick a range of colour systems. I can have a two-tone colour, maybe a green to a red, and apply that. And now the reds are the areas where people rate the area lower than the greens, and the yellows somewhere in the middle. So I can start to see if there's a pattern in the data quite clearly and visually there. Just try this out. If I change the intervals and apply, I haven't got very much data here, so it's not going to make a huge difference. But can you see how I pick standard deviation there for the results, whether they're particularly high or above or below the mean for this data set, and it colours them slightly differently. So just be aware that picking different options creates different colour scheme, and students, it's a good way of teaching students the idea of how the data is split and separated, and how these maps are made and how they can control them, and how it creates different visual effects depending on what you show. You can also pick different class intervals up to 10, so if I pick 10 class intervals, then every single sort of number interval is shown here. But generally we pick somewhere around 5 or 6 for a lot of data. So that's the basis of changing the colours. I can change questions very easily now. If I pick, which one have I got some data in for? How much crime do you think occurs in your area? I haven't put data in for this. I was just looking at one I've got data for. And I pick apply now. So you can see without doing anything else, I've already got the data for that crime values that people have entered, and it's already coloured it straight away. Sorry, there we go. Sorry, the screen went a bit slightly funny there. So now I can see the colour scheme. You'll notice, interestingly though, I picked this one on purpose. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much crime, you'll notice that 8 to 10, which is green at the moment, is the highest crime areas. You may be happy with that as a colour scheme, but personally I think, well, I kind of associate red with sort of negative things, and green and blues with more positive visually, so I can actually change the colours for this by going under the options and flip colours. And you can see here how doing that now makes the red areas at the bottom here the higher crime ratings by students, and the green areas the lower crime ratings. And I'll show you in another tutorial how you might bring in some secondary data to sort of look at real crime data in relation to the perception data that students have provided here. But just in looking at this already, there's some interesting ideas and patterns that could be drawn on that students could then sort of write about, describe, and so on. Just before I finish this tutorial, one last bit. I've decided to use colour. I can change very easily to size on this. If I click apply here, then basically we've got proportional symbols showing the same data. So the small dots represent areas with low crime ratings, so this person's put in a level 2 for their crime perception, and this person, if I click on them here, has put in number 9, so it's a bigger circle. And again, if you go under options, change all symbols, you can control, I'll move that slightly out of the way, you can control the sizes of the circles, the largest, the smallest ones, to again create the most visually sort of pleasing and clear effect there. So now my bigger circles are much more clear that they're different to the smaller ones. So that's a basic tutorial on the initial skills for manipulating the data that students have entered, and as we got thousands of students participating in the event, you can look at large data sets and patterns using these techniques, zooming right down to the local area and looking at sort of small scale patterns, or zooming out nationally and looking at any other patterns that might exist. Of course, as you notice when you zoom out, some of these colour schemes or systems might not work as well, so size might not be great when you're zooming out. A colour scheme might be a better way of looking at the data, and again, the size of circles that you pick will vary according to the scale you want to zoom to, and again you just go under the options to change them to make it effective for whatever scale you're looking at. So I hope you found that tutorial useful. Remember, all information about the event can be found at the Esri Web School's website, and also at my web page I've created website for this event, so do take a look at that and keep up to date with it. Do register for the event so that we can keep you up to date and know how many people are sort of getting involved and participating. This website with lots of information I've produced is called GIS Record 2014.jimdo gmail.com. Hope you found this tutorial useful, and hope you get as many students as possible to participate in this useful, interesting, educational, fun GIS geography event. Thank you.